Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dive deep with us again?
Always excited to explore these captivating corners of history.
Well, get ready, because this one's a doozy. It's about Peter Warner, a name you might not know, but his story. Wow.
Oh, trust me, I was hooked from the moment I started digging into this.
It's got it all. Wealth, adventure, survival. We're talking about a guy born into privilege. I mean, his dad was practically Australian royalty.
Yeah, we're talking 1931, inheriting a business empire.
Yeah.
The kind of start that most people only dream of.
Exactly. But Peter, well, he heard a different call. The siren song of the open ocean.
You can say that again. Even as a kid, the sea was his playground, his escape. There's this great anecdote about him as a teenager running away to join the crew of a Swedish ship.
17 years old. I mean, talk about a statement. This wasn't just a phase. It was a deep-seated yearning for something more.
And that yearning, it really speaks volumes about his character, this independent spirit, this thirst for adventure. But here's the thing. He didn't completely abandon his family's world. It's almost like he was living a double life.
Right. Almost like he was straddling two different worlds. By day, he's a successful businessman, proving himself in the corporate arena just like his father. But by night, he's out there conquering the waves, sailing competitively, even winning prestigious races like the Sydney to Hobart.
And it wasn't just casual sailing. This was serious passion. I mean, come on, who makes their honeymoon a 5-month sailing trip?
Seriously, most couples are arguing over which all-inclusive resort to pick. But for Peter, it had to be the open ocean. 5 months. It's almost like a foreshadowing of what's to come, this pull toward adventure, this deep-seated connection with the water.
Absolutely, and that connection takes center stage in 1966. Picture this. Peter's on a fishing expedition in the South Pacific near this desolate little speck of land called Ada Island.
Desolate doesn't even begin to describe it. We're talking volcanic rock, hardly any vegetation, the kind of place you accidentally end up on in your nightmares.
And as they're approaching this island, they spot something that just seems impossible in that desolate landscape, a patch of burnt earth. And then a figure emerges, a young boy swimming frantically toward their boat.
Wait, just one boy?
Oh, it gets even wilder. 5 more boys emerge from the island, all racing to reach the boat, desperate for help. Can you imagine being on that boat? The shock, the disbelief. Who are these kids? Where did they come from?
It sounds like something straight out of an adventure novel. I'm on the edge of my seat already.
Oh, trust me, this is just the beginning, the real story, the how and the why. That's where things get truly remarkable.
Pirates, castaways, stowaways. Who are these kids?
Well, the answer was even more unbelievable than any of those guesses. Turns out, these weren't hardened seafarers or accidental tourists.
Don't tell me. Aliens.
Not quite, though I'm sure it crossed their minds at the time. These were students, teenagers really, who'd snuck away from their boarding school in Tonga.
Okay, so a bit of a rebellious streak, but teenagers on a joyride don't usually end up stranded on a desolate island for, what was it, 15 months?
Exactly. And this is where their little adventure takes a turn for the, well, downright terrifying. See, they'd only been at sea for 8 days when a massive storm hit, ripping their boat apart, destroying the sail, the rudder, everything.
8 days adrift, at the mercy of the elements. It's a miracle they survived that long.
It really is. And remember, this wasn't a pleasure cruise gone wrong. They were tossed around, battered by the waves, no way to steer, no way to call for help. Just the vast, unforgiving ocean surrounding them. And then, by some stroke of luck or fate, they washed ashore on Ada Island.
Talk about dodging one disaster only to land in the middle of another. I mean, we've talked about how desolate Ada Island is.
Desolate is putting it mildly. Imagine being those boys. Injured, terrified, completely cut off from the world. They had to become masters of their own survival, scavenging for whatever food they could find, battling the elements, even dealing with a broken leg.
A broken leg.
Yeah, one of the boys, Stephen, fractured his leg during the ordeal. Can you imagine the pain, the fear, the sheer helplessness of that situation?
It's almost unimaginable. But they somehow managed to not only survive, but to care for each other, to help Stephen heal. It really makes you question that whole Lord of the Flies narrative, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean,
Yeah.
Here you have a group of boys stranded, isolated, facing unimaginable hardship. And yet, instead of descending into chaos, they formed their own little society, relying on each other for support, for survival.
It's a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to our innate capacity for empathy and cooperation, even in the direst of circumstances.
And it's a side of the story that often gets overshadowed by the sensationalism of the rescue itself. But we can't forget, Peter Warner's role in all of this went far beyond just plucking them from the sea.
Right. He didn't just save them from the island. He went to bat for them when they were facing some pretty serious consequences for stealing that boat.
Exactly. He recognized that these weren't criminals. They were desperate kids who had been through an unimaginable ordeal. He saw their humanity, their resilience, and he fought to protect them.
That's true compassion right there. He could easily wash his hands of the whole thing, been hailed a hero for the rescue, and moved on. But he chose to stand by those boys to ensure their well-being, even after they were back on dry land.
And that act of compassion, that decision to see beyond the surface and fight for what's right, well, it speaks volumes about Peter Warner's character. And it's just a glimpse into the kind of impact this whole experience had on him.
You know, it's easy to see this rescue as the end of the story, a happy ending. But knowing Peter, it seems like this was just the beginning of something bigger.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this whole experience, this encounter with these incredible kids, it really sparked something in him.
So instead of going back to business as usual,
He dove even deeper into this life of adventure, this commitment to helping others. He kept sailing, of course, even going head-to-head with Rupert Murdoch in a few races. Can you imagine those two out on the water together?
oh, I can only imagine the stories they could tell. But beyond the competition, Peter gained this reputation, almost like a guardian angel of the sea.
It's true. He was always ready to answer the call, to help those in need. I mean, we're talking daring rescues, incredible feats of seamanship. He truly lived up to that whole guardian angel title.
And it wasn't just about physical rescues, was it? It seems like this whole experience also pushed him down a path of spiritual exploration.
You hit the nail on the head. He ended up converting to the Baha'i faith, which really emphasizes this idea of interconnectedness, of the oneness of humanity. It's like everything he'd experienced, from his privileged upbringing to those harrowing rescues, it all led him to this deeper understanding of the world.
What a journey. But stories like this, as amazing as they are, sometimes they fade with time. So what makes Peter Warner's story resonate so strongly, even today?
Well, for one, his story was recently featured in Rutger Bregman's book Humankind, A Hopeful History, which was a huge bestseller. Bregman uses Peter's story to illustrate this idea that deep down, humans are actually wired for cooperation, for compassion, for resilience, even when things get tough.
It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often feels defined by conflict and division.
Absolutely. And Peter himself echoed these themes in his own writing. He wrote a memoir called Ocean of Light, where he reflects on the boy's ordeal, his own experiences at sea, and the power of the human spirit to overcome just about anything.
It's a good reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope, always this potential for connection and resilience.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the remarkable life of Peter Warner, from privileged heir to castaway rescuer to beacon of hope, it really makes you wonder, what would you have done if faced with a similar challenge? How would you answer the call to adventure?
It's a question worth pondering, that's for sure. And it speaks to the heart of what we try to do here on the Deep Dive, to uncover these incredible stories, these hidden corners of history that remind us of the power of the human spirit.
To challenge our assumptions, to ignite our curiosity, and to inspire us to embrace the unknown. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep with us.